Hello, my friends. It is day 116, and we're reading Psalms 73, Psalms 77, and Psalm 78. But before we get into our recap for today, I want to thank you for taking a moment to check out this video. Hopefully, you're finding the yearly Bible reading program enjoyable and beneficial. And if you have not yet accepted the invitation to be a part of this community, please check out the description box below. And there you will find a link that will take you directly to the YouVersion Bible app, where you can join us and you can read every single day and leave feedback on the things you're learning and discovering through God's word. So we'd love for you to be a part of the community. And we believe that we'll be blessed as much as we hope you'd be blessed through your participation in the group. So today we're reading in the Psalms. We're jumping back and forth from the books of Samuel, the book of Chronicles, and the book of Psalms. And today we're reading three Psalms from the Psalms of Asaph. Now, Asaph wrote about 12 Psalms in the book of Psalms, and we understand that he was a musician of David and he was a Levite. And so these songs, as we stated before, do a lot to change the way things were typically done in the tabernacle and essentially would be done in the temple. And so this musicianship, this music, all these things are becoming a part, obviously, of the temple process, which it could have been, very well could have been the same during Moses' time, but we kind of see seemingly the Bible places special emphasis on this, and I would only expect this to be the case because of the musician that David was and his priority on building a house that God would appreciate and obviously feel welcome at. And so a lot of these things are playing a significant role during the time of David's reign. And I think that is the point of the Bible plan, putting these Psalms in this particular order and then this place of the biblical narrative. Now, today we're reading Psalm 73. It's one of my favorite Psalms. I'll tell you, this Psalm has a special place in my heart. I tell this story as often as I can. There was an instance once where I was working early in my career and I didn't have any lunch money. Long story short, that day I just sat in the cafeteria. I took my Bible, I flipped it open, and it fell open to Psalm chapter 73. And it was the perfect Psalm for that moment because I was really wondering, as a believer, why am I broke? Well, the answer was I wasn't spending my money wisely. But for me, it was almost like a matter of persecution, right? Or the enemy is trying to get at me. So I was feeling really down about the situation. And I flipped my Bible open, just took it open and dropped it on the table, and it opened to Psalm 73. And it helped me first understand that my life is not comprised of the material things I possess. And for those who seemingly have material possessions by ways of evilness and wickedness, it never is, it never lasts long. Essentially, it is something that you will lose. And then we all have to go to that inevitable place where we leave this world that we are currently in. And so it was a really good Psalm. And the reverse of this Psalm, the other Psalm that, not say reverse, but the other Psalm that has the same point is ironically chapter 37. So Psalm 73, Psalm 37 virtually have the same point. Psalm 73 is written by Asaph, and then Psalm 37 is actually written by David. So a couple things stand out here. First, it talks about how the psalmist almost lost his confidence, if you will, in doing what is right. He calls it and describes it as almost losing his footing. And then he goes into this very long explanation of what that looks like. It's being envious of the proud, is being somewhat resentful of the circumstances that he's facing due to his righteous living. It's almost as to say, I'm beginning to feel like living the right way doesn't pay off. And I think we all have been there. If you haven't, you probably will be there. And this will be a good psalm for you to read. But what he ultimately I mean, look at verse 13. He says, did I keep my heart pure for nothing? Did I keep myself innocent for no reason? I get nothing but trouble all day long. Every morning brings me pain. And then he goes on and says in verse 21, my heart was bitter. I was all torn up inside. I was so foolish and ignorant. I must have seemed like a senseless animal to you. And then he goes on and says, yet I still belong to you. You hold my right hand. He says in verse 26, my health may fail and my spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever. And so you see, this is a beautiful psalm. I mean, I'm telling you, you have to have this one in your back pocket, because there are those moments in life where you feel like there's no point to it all. What are you doing? Why don't you just go out and enjoy life like everyone else? Look at them. They're doing their thing. Why can't you do yours? And it seems to be paying off. And we always need this reminder in a psalm like Psalm 73 that actually, no, it's not what you think it is. There is value in living for God and doing it his way. You may not always get to see it as quickly and as clearly as you like, but you can always rest assured that there is a permanent, eternal, but also a right now value to doing things God's way. And so I love that psalm. I always refer to it often. Now, the other two psalms that we read was Psalm 77 and Psalm 78. And in this psalm, we see that Asaph is writing as he cries out to the Lord. He talks about his prayers being long, and it describes it as being all night long. But there's a point in this passage where it seems like he's placing a little bit of blame on God. Like God is almost like a Job experience. If you read in verse 4, you don't let me sleep. I'm too distressed even to pray. So in one moment, he's like, all night long I prayed. And then in verse 4, he's like, I'm too distressed to pray. You can see the emotional imbalance here. Like these just all over the place. You can tell that there's something going on, which I love about the Psalms, the transparency, the realness of what we're reading, things that are common to us. We can relate to this. You know, like one day we're here and then the next day we're like way down here. All of this is happening in one Psalm that we're reading in chapter 77. And he begins to ask a few questions. Has the Lord rejected me? Will he never again be kind to me? Is his unfailing love gone forever? Have his promises permanently failed? Has God forgotten to be gracious? Has he slammed the door on his compassion? And all of these things resemble experiences that we all may have. But he says in verse 13, "O God, your ways are holy. Is there any God as mighty as you? You are the God of great wonders. You demonstrate your awesome power among the nations by your strong arm. You redeemed your people, the descendants of Jacob and Joseph." And then this beautiful ending to chapter 77, where he talks and describes the way God conquered the Red Sea. He says, "When the Red Sea saw you, O God, its waters looked and trembled. The sea quaked to its very depths. The cloud poured down rain. The thunder rumbled in the sky. Your arrows of lightning flashed. Your thunder roared from the whirlwind. The lightning lit up the world. The earth trembled and shook. Your road led through the sea, your pathway through the mighty waters, a pathway no one was there, nor no one knew was there. You led your people along that road like a flock of sheep with Moses and Aaron as their shepherds." So it's as if he's saying in one moment, Lord, I'm praying all night long. Are you going to hear me? And then he goes to the next phase of this chapter. And he's like, God, I'm so distressed. I can't even pray any longer. And then he goes into this point where he's like, Lord, have you forgotten me? Have you remembered? Where are you? And then he goes to this last point where he's like, wait a minute. I serve the God of gods, the King of kings, the Lord of lords. Like, what am I doing here? And he pulls himself together and he begins to talk about the power and the majesty and the wonder of God, almost as to pull himself out of that hole. What I want you to see here is look at all the different movements that happen in this passage. The movement of faith to faithlessness to, or maybe should I say faith to doubt to, praise and adoration, all of that in one psalm. And that's kind of how life works. We kind of experience all of these emotions and all these things in a sequence of events. Now, I love chapter 78. It's pretty long. It's pretty detailed. One verse that really stood out to me is verse 7. So each generation should set its hopes anew on God, not forgetting his glorious miracles and obeying his commands. And then it was verse 34 through verse 39, where it talks about, Israel's rebellion and how God pretty much in a way abandoned them so that they can repent. But they didn't. And so we see that this psalm is a bit didactic, and there are some psalms that have that as a genre. This may be one of them, I'm not sure, but there's an instruction to this. And so one of the things we find in the Psalms is that these Psalms are not just written to be poetic or to be emotional expressions, but a lot of them are written to teach something in a form of a psalm. And so we have what we might call didactic Psalms. And so be on the lookout for those. In some Psalms, even though they may not be that in totality, there are aspects of that so that the people of Israel can understand, how they're supposed to operate and behave in their relationship with God. So a lot of good reading, a lot of things to take away. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So let me know what you're thinking in the comment box below or in the YouVersion app, and we'd love to be blessed by your commentary. Until next time, thank you for watching. Take care. God bless. And remember, live by the word.